everybody. I'm Becky Austill-Clausen. I am so thrilled to welcome you to our questions and answers session for Reiki Immersion Online. Today is February 26, 2022, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce our Zoom co-host, Christina Gavalis-Valdivia. Christina is totally awesome, has been with me for all my online courses, and it is just a gift. Christina is an occupational therapist at Northwell Health in New York. She's also a graduate student of a low vision rehabilitation program, and it is just absolutely a joy to work with you, Christina. So at this point, let me turn it over to you for your magic.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to this Q&A session with Rebecca Austill-Clausen. We're so glad that you're joining us for this live online event, Reiki Immersion Online question and answer session. We're overjoyed that you're here. My name is Christina Gavalis-Valdivia, and I will be your co-host for this meeting. Let me just pull my script back up. And I'll be supporting Rebecca as she answers any questions you might have. First, we're going to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. And if you're just joining us, I know someone just joined in, welcome. Many of you are probably familiar with Zoom by now, but I just wanted to review some things before we get started. You're going to be muted upon entering the meeting. Please keep yourself muted to avoid any background noise. There is a chat box you can open at any time during the meeting to engage with each other. This is a time for you to ask Rebecca specific questions and a time to share. So you can use the chat box to share with each other. Please use the raise hand feature if you have a question. There are 3 ways you can use the raise hand feature. The first is by opening the participants window. It should be an option that you can select. The second is it may be on the bottom of your screen in the toolbar. And the third, you may have to hit the 3 dots on the toolbar to select more, and then the option will be there. I will call out your name if you have your hand raised, and I will invite you to unmute yourself so you can ask your question. If you're not comfortable asking your question for any reason, you can send me a chat message directly and I'll ask it anonymously to Rebecca. If you have any technical issues, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm going to put my email in the chat box for you. All right, there it is. So you can email me, just put Reiki in the subject line and I will help you out as best I can, even during the meeting. If you're experiencing any technical issues with Zoom, it might be your internet connection. So my suggestion would be to log out of Zoom and log back in if this happens. You can also send me a chat message or an email and I can help you troubleshoot. Let's have some fun with the chat box now. We have a few people, so let's go ahead and type in your location. Let us know where you're joining us from. I'm in New York, Becky's in Pennsylvania. Let's see.
Type it in, folks.
I see people typing. Chicago.
Yay!
All over the country attending today. So welcome, everyone. Now that we've gone over some housekeeping items, I'm excited to introduce you. Oh, we also have Toronto. We are international.
That's great, Deborah.
I'm excited to introduce you to Rebecca Austill-Clausen, our speaker and host. Rebecca Austill-Clausen is a Reiki master, occupational therapist, and award-winning author. She is the first person to provide Reiki certificate training at numerous American Occupational Therapy Association annual conferences, the International Association for Near-Death Studies annual conference, and at multiple university programs. Rebecca has provided Reiki for over 25 years, training thousands of medical professionals and all others on how to utilize Reiki's natural energy healing benefits. And now I'll hand it over to our special speaker and host, Rebecca.
Oh, thanks, Christina. You're very, very kind. And welcome, everybody. I see some familiar faces and some new faces and new names. And gosh, it's great. And welcome to the person that just said you're from New York. And we've got Chicago and Toronto and wherever. So it's really, really, really fun. Let me just give, if you don't mind, let me just give a very brief overview of what's happening with our Reiki Immersion online program, and then ask me anything you want. I'm all yours. We have Reiki 1, which is starting next Saturday. Actually, it's starting on Saturday, a week from today. And it'll be 12 to 7 Eastern time and 9 to 4 Pacific time. And Reiki 1 is when you get your Reiki energy activated. The idea is that we all have energy. There's a nice little ceremony where we activate your energy, and immediately you go into providing 3 different people. Christina does a great job with setting everybody up in individual breakout rooms. Breakout rooms only hold 2 people. And so you get to receive Reiki and then talk about it with your partner. And then if you're the one that is receiving, then you will then, after you talk about it with your partner, then you will send it. So first you receive it, talk about it, and then you're going to send it and talk about it. And then we come back as a big group, and we do that 3 different times. Plus you learn about the history and the philosophy and why Reiki works, particularly with medical clients. But if you're not a medical professional, it's totally fine. So that's Reiki 1. Reiki 2 is the next day. That's Sunday, March 6th. And again, it's the same time. It's 6.0 contact hours. All the classes are 6.0 contact hours approved by the National Board for Certification of OT. And Reiki Level 2, you learn why and how Reiki works. And so you figure it out. You learn what it is. There's 3 different symbols. You learn about them. You practice them. You use them. There's different hand positions we go over. We do long distance healing. There's a fun activity with crystals, and we do crystals in Reiki Level 2. And we also have 3 more experiential one-on-one partnership sessions using breakout rooms. And so if you go to Reiki 1 and 2, which actually, in my opinion, is the best way to learn Reiki. You don't have to, you can just go to Reiki 1. And you'll be able to provide Reiki to yourself, clients, colleagues, pets, plants, family, friends with just Reiki 1. But if you do Reiki 1 and 2, it teaches our mind why it works. And so that's a really nice way to learn Reiki, is to plan on having a Reiki weekend with us. And there's plenty of time for breaks and all of that. Plus there's a discount if you take Reiki 1 and 2 at the same weekend. Reiki Master is, and Robin Bushi is here, and she is a Reiki Master, which is great fun. And so Robin was in our class last year, which was just great. Reiki Master is, you need to have at least 6 months experience after you've received your Reiki Level 2 certificate. And then you have a one-on-one interview with me, and you talk about what your plans are for being a Reiki Master. And it's really a lovely group of people that really embrace the philosophy of Reiki, the unconditional love that Reiki provides. And there's a special, what's called an attunement, an activation of your Reiki Master energy. You learn advanced clinical skills, how to set up your own Reiki practice, whether it's in the medical community, medical hospital, medical facility, or the community. You learn how to teach Reiki. It's really quite a fun class. Exactly the same time, 12 to 7 on March 12th. So that's in a couple of weeks from today, actually. And so that's the overview. Registration is my name, Rebecca Austill-Clausen. I realize it's quite the name, but it is my name, Rebecca Austill-Clausen, no space, no hyphen. .com/Reiki Immersion, IMMERSION. That's the registration. Or if you have any questions, just email me, Becky@RebeccaAustill-Clausen.com. So at this point, let me stop talking and let's have you all talk. And Christina, if you can please facilitate the questions, that would be great. And I see that Christina just put the contact in the chat. So thank you, Christina, very much.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. So if you have any questions, please use that raise hand feature and I will give you the invitation to unmute yourself.
And if you can't figure out the raised hand, feel free to just raise your hand if your video is on.
If your video's on, I'll catch it, or you can send a chat message as well.
Now, we are here to ask questions and receive answers, so don't be shy. feel free to say anything you want. And if you just want to make a comment, that's fine too.
I can start. Oh, we have Bridget.
Bridget from New York, I think.
I think so. So here
and you're
we go.
muted.
Yes, I'm giving you the ask to unmute.
Oh, great.
Well, I just wanted to thank you and honor you for the time that you put into your the actual course. I truly enjoyed that, and the time that you put into this Reiki course. I'm going through a lot right now, so I'm not going to take the Reiki course this year because I'm going through so much. But I'm just interested in Reiki, and so I just thought I'd drop in. But mostly, I just wanted to thank you.
Bridget, that is so lovely. And you know, I'm so sorry that it's a tricky time right now for you. Reiki is a way for us to heal, for us to receive peace and reduce anxiety. And I realize trying to learn a whole new modality at this point is tricky. But if it's all right with you, I would love to send you some Reiki healing, whether I do it right now or after we finish. The thing in Reiki is that we always ask permission. And so I wouldn't want to do that unless I had your permission, but you're very kind to be here. And thank you very, very much. And feel free to keep me in touch with how you're doing. Feel free to email me or communicate in any way you want, because you are very lovely. And it's very nice to see you. When I saw your name pop up, I'm like, all right. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. And hello to everybody else here as well.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thanks for joining us. All right. I will ask a question. In order to do the Reiki Master course, how do I send you certificates if I didn't take Reiki with you?
Oh, good. Thanks, Christina. Anyone that takes a Reiki Master course needs to send me, please, the certificates of your Reiki Level 1 and Reiki Level 2 ahead of time. And you're welcome to take a picture of them and just email them to me. Or if you did take them with me, then you just let me know, hey, I took Reiki 1 or Reiki 1 and 2 with you or whatever. But I'm pretty loose as far as how to send the certificates, as long as I receive them before March 12th, which is the Reiki Master course. It's totally fine. And I have a nice little filing system. And so I'll probably email you probably about a week before and say, hey, do you have those certificates? And can you please send them onward? But either just scanning them or take a text picture and then send them to me by email. That would be swell. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. Oh, Robin has a question.
Yay, Robin.
I will ask you to unmute.
And you're still muted.
I think she's using the mouse to try to unmute herself.
Okay, good.
Oh, there. Oh, here we go.
You know, the pointer has to go in the right direction. First of all, thank you, Becky. It's wonderful to see you. I've been thinking about you for a long time.
Thanks.
I think about you almost every day.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
And for everybody here, this is not solicited, okay? The reason I joined today is, yes, I am a Reiki master, and Christina, I know your beautiful smile too. So, and I just want to say I'm an occupational therapist and a Reiki master, thanks to beloved Becky, who I began with, 7, 8 years ago, and then completed the master's program. So, you know, I just want to tell you, I was, for the people who are here, you really, if this is something, and this is not solicited, she didn't know I was going to be here, okay? So I just want to tell you that it is a beautiful process. It's a beautiful awakening to your spirit. Becky would ask me sometimes, okay, do you believe you're a Reiki master? And you know, I think about that. And you know, sometimes when I'm with my patients now, I don't just do Reiki because I don't know what that is, because I've been an occupational therapist for more than who knows how long, 40 years, as long as Becky has, Becky has. But you know what? It's a part of me, and I do embrace it, and I'm grateful, not only for myself, but for others I'm with. So, like I was saying, for, you said to Bridget, I mean, welcome. If it's a wonderful Reiki, I will say for myself, and that probably, as I said, this isn't solicited, okay? But I just want you to know for others here, Reiki gives you a new depth to your inner spirit, okay? It gives you a new appreciation of people around you. It helps you to reach out to those in need, but it helps you to help yourself. So I just want to thank you for that. And one reason I tuned in today is because I just wanted to feel that wonderful energy. So thank you. I'm selfishly, so if that helps the others to think about, well, is it good for me or not? When the time is right, venture into it. Try it, you like it, and you'll find it opens beautiful doors. And Becky, she took me through all from the beginning at an I know she always mentions me in her little lectures still, that's how, but it was in the beginning. Well, I should let you say it, but anyway, it was an OT international, not international, it was a conference in Chicago in, what was it, 9 years ago?
Yes, 2016 or 17.
Yeah, something like that. It's amazing. And I just said, okay, continuing ed, let me see what Reiki's about. Led me from Reiki 1 to 2. And then 5 years later, I became a master. So, it's a process. So I'll stop talking, but I want to stimulate, hopefully you others ask questions, don't be shy. And turn on your cameras. How's that? I can say that. Turn on your camera so we can see you.
Robin, do you mind if I share the story that I tell every single time I talk
I
about
love
Reiki?
it. It makes me happy.
So, Robin, thank you very much. That was lovely. I was so excited to see your name pop up. I'm like, all right, you're here. Yes, please give yourself a big hug. So what happened when Robin was taking Reiki Level 2, and Reiki Level 2 is when we learn long distance healing. One of the things that happens is we learn long distance healing. And so we did a long distance healing session with what it is when we send Reiki to someone that's not in the room physically. So we did our first session and I said, does anyone have anything they'd like to share? And this lovely woman in the front row raises her hand. It was Robin, raises her hand and she says, Becky, I have something I want to tell you. Before I came, I asked my daughter if it was all right if I sent her Reiki, because as we were talking earlier, we always need to ask permission. And my daughter said yes. Now, she had no idea when this was going to happen. So I just sent her Reiki. 30 seconds after I sent the Reiki, my phone pinged, and it was my daughter. And she said, Mom, I feel a tremendous sense of peace and love and calmness. Did you just send me Reiki? And Robin says, by golly, I did. And last year when we were doing the Reiki Immersion online Reiki Master interview process, I met Robin's daughter and it was fantastic. And it was so fun. Actually, before that, I didn't remember Robin's name, but I would tell this story. And so when Robin was saying, hey, Beck, I want to come to your Reiki Masterclass, she says, I'm the one that you talk about at every single Reiki training where I saw the message from my daughter on your phone. So it is quite amazing. And Robin, to have your lovely thoughts here, it is just great. And isn't that pretty cool? 30 seconds after Robin sent her daughter Reiki, the phone pinged. It's her daughter. Mom, did you just send me Reiki? I mean, it is extraordinary. It is quite something, but it works. So thanks, Robin. Cheers.
You're welcome.
So
Cheers,
good to see you,
Becky.
Robin.
Thank you. Thank you. And she was in Iowa at the time. She was at the University of Iowa. So I just want to let you know, Becky had talked about, I think it was your immersion. It was after the first class where Becky was talking about giving long distance Reiki. And that's where I said, oh, long distance Reiki. So I thought, okay. And she, you know, my daughter has a little bit of an anxiety disorder. She's a social worker now and doing great. But the fact is, so that's where, you know, that is. And we are very connected. So that ping is always, you know, back and forth.
Thanks, Robin. And welcome to the people that have joined us, and welcome Deborah, Sarah, Stephen, Jerry, Monica, Bridget, like everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
I was going to share from Deborah. So Deborah said that she learned Reiki Level 1 many years ago in Toronto in the Usui method modality, and she practiced for a little while before she was returning to other work as an NDE experiencer. And she's a facilitator for sharing groups with the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
All right.
Invite to unmute yourself, Deborah, but I thought that would make Becky smile.
It absolutely does. Deborah, please talk.
Well, hello. I don't really know what I have to share other than that. And I just was clearly very drawn today. So I am somewhat familiar with you, Rebecca. Yeah, I'm just feeling very drawn to come on today. I'm unable to stay the whole time though, but I just really wanted to sign in and connect and perhaps learn more about what is in store for me next.
You know, Deborah, it has been such an honor to meld Reiki with the International Association for Near-Death Studies. And last year, I was so thrilled when they said, hey, Beck, can you provide Reiki Level 1 training at our annual conference? And quite frankly, they've already asked me to do it again for 2022 at the Salt Lake City in-person conference. And if it's online, it'll be done online as well. But when people have, for those of you that, I hope you don't mind if I share a little bit about near-death experiences. Is that okay? Yes, it is.
Oh, she's muted again, but she's giving you the...
All right, great. When people have a near-death experience, it is when our body essentially flatlines, but our consciousness continues. And there's 40 years of research with people that have had near-death experiences, and a very common trait that thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have had near-death experience have when they travel to another realm of existence is the unconditional love that is felt in the afterlife. And Reiki is known as unconditional love, and Reiki very much enhances the ability to communicate with our loved ones from beyond. And a lot of times people that have had a near-death experience also communicate with loved ones from beyond. So it's a really nice melt to have Reiki with near-death experiences. And I do a lot of work with IONS as far as going to different chapters and talking about Reiki and talking about my personal experience when my brother passed and I learned how to talk with him. And it's fantastic, Deborah, that you're here, like way to go. And so it's an honor to have you here, and thank you for all the work that you do with your chapter and for sharing. It's really quite a very nice group. IANDS, IANDS.org is how you get to the International Association for Near-Death Studies. It's a great group, medical professionals, researchers, physicians, experiencers, people that support experiences, and it really is has become known that near-death experiences are real. They're not imagined, they actually happen. And there's lots and lots and lots of research that is coming out recently, very much supporting this whole concept. So Deborah, thanks so much. It's very nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. I was called to be here. I follow the guidance. And I mean, it took me, my very first near-death experience happened when I was 10 years old. And it was it was so powerful and huge being and being in that unconditional benevolent love and having a life review at that age, and not wanting to come back, and understanding that I was called to come back, and the challenge that was for me back in the physical body at that young age, being shown what I was shown and reminded of what we are in truth. And it took me years and years to speak about my experience. So, and I'm very grateful for the people who had encouraged me along the way. And it was just maybe a few years ago that I spoke about it. And then IANS, and so much just has opened up. And yeah, and I see the marriage between, as you said so beautifully, the marriage between NDE's spiritual experiences and Reiki, and the love that poured in through my crown chakra, when I first, was initiated into Reiki, that remembrance, that love that just poured in. Thank you.
Deborah, that was beautiful. It is astounding to receive that love, that unconditional love, and then try to meld it with our earthly existence. And that's what Reiki helps. Reiki helps. And it took me 20 years to talk about this as well. And it is, it's a beautiful way to live. So way to go. Thank you for sharing. That was really, really nice. Deborah, just for your information, there's a conference, a one-day online conference, and it's on Sunday, April 3rd, and it's with Portal to Ascension. And so if you Googled Portal to Ascension, April 3rd, I'm going to be talking about the science of Reiki and how it relates to near-death experiences and after-death communication. And there's all sorts of people that are talking about the evidence of near-death experiences and afterlife communication. And that's on April 3rd with Portal to Ascension online.
Thank you for that. I have signed up. I received their emails, so I'll pay attention.
Sounds great. Oh, sure. It's so fun. What a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for sharing, both of you. Next, we have a question from Monica. She said she is technically level 2 Reiki practitioner trained. She's an OT. She said she's been struggling with some doubts when it comes to her ability to channel Reiki and perform it on herself, but she would like to incorporate it into practice. And she thinks that her hospital system would be supportive of launching a program, but she's just not comfortable with her knowledge and understanding. So she's wondering if you have any advice.
Oh, Monica, way to go. Thank you so much for asking. I would encourage you to come to whatever class you want, whether it's, if you're Reiki 2 trained, I'd encourage you to come to the Reiki 2 training and refresh yourself. It's people often who have doubts or wonder or think, now really, they come to another class and it works. Now you don't get attuned again on Reiki level 2, although if you wanted that, I could certainly do that. But Reiki level 2 is fun. And what happens quickly in Reiki level 2 is that I review the information from Reiki 1, like the main information quickly. And then we go into learning, about the symbols and how does it work and why does it work? And then you learn this long distance healing that was so fun that Robin we were talking about with Robin. And it's a nice way to experience Reiki. And when you're talking about, does this really work or whatever? For me, the thing that makes Reiki effective are the experiential training sessions. And I used to have a ton of people come to my in-person Reiki classes, and they had already had Reiki. And I'd say, well, now why are you here? Without no judgment. I was just wondering, why are you here? And they said, well, I just didn't really get it. I wasn't really sure, whatever. And the experiential sessions work. You get to have and receive and share Reiki with 3 different people on a one-to-one basis. And because I teach this to medical professionals and all others, we do quick Reiki. So it's like 7 minutes of Reiki sharing. You know, I would give you Reiki for 7 minutes, and then we talk about it for a few minutes, and then you would give me Reiki for 7 minutes, and then we talk about it. And it wouldn't be me because I travel around to the different rooms, but it would be your partner that's automatically selected. So you have 3 different partners, and by the end of one day, you will have received and shared Reiki. And I would be stunned if you did not feel better about your Reiki skills after experiencing and receiving and sharing Reiki with 3 different people. The first one's always, you know, a little, you wonder, you know, the first one you wonder. The second one, you can see, you can feel the difference. And I'm talking online or in person. You can feel the difference that second time. Third time, you've got it. And so at least 3 different experiential sessions are happening with all these classes. And so if you take Reiki 1 and 2, which you don't need to do, but you could, you know, you'd have 6 different people that you will have experienced their different, unique energy. And you'll be able to say, okay, because the first thing that happens in Reiki level 1 is that you learn self-healing, because the whole idea is that we need to be healed ourselves in order to facilitate the healing of others. And it's not us that does the healing. Each person's own body heals. All we are as the Reiki practitioner is a facilitator. We ask the energy from the universe to come through us. We're like an empty bamboo rod. The energy goes right through us to the client or friend or family or pet or plant, whoever you're sending Reiki to after you've asked permission. The energy goes right through us to that person or animal or plant. And it's that body that does the healing. And so we're just a facilitator. So I would encourage you to think about maybe taking a class again and seeing what you think. And you definitely want to take a class, in my opinion, with experiential sessions, because that's where you get it. That's where you get it. And there's tons of chances to discuss. And one of the reasons why I like discussion with one other person is because it's safe. You know, you're just talking with that one person, and you can share your thoughts with that person that you've received and shared Reiki with without hearing from anybody else. And then we come back in a big group, and then we also share. And so you get to hear from other people how it goes. It's an effective process. It's amazing to me that it works as well as it does. So it's great fun. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Oh, we just had someone new join us. Hello.
And I believe, Robin, is that your daughter?
Hi,
Yay!
yes, that's I'm Robin's daughter, Ellie. Hello.
Let's
Ellie.
see you.
No, I don't want to be seen.
Ellie, I just told the story about how your mom sent you Reiki during the Reiki class. I think it was in Chicago, and you got it within like 30 seconds. And then how you and I met, you were on the, in the background when I was talking to your mom last year. So way to go. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually in the car, so I'm not holding the phone. So that's why I'm not being seen right now.
See,
well, it's great you're here.
I sent her a Reiki text.
Yeah, she did.
Enjoyed. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Great. And
nice to virtually meet you.
It is.
Yeah, you too. You too.
Christina, we have, yeah, I'm sorry, go for it, Robin.
No, I just want to add to give them from one who has become a Reiki master. Again, it's not solicited, but to incorporate Reiki and OT, I am learning now how to do it more. And I think because also I think one thing that Becky does talk about during her at least through your Reiki 3, when you become a master, is how there are certain codes that we can actually incorporate in. And I think that I don't necessarily say in my progress notes that I'm doing Reiki, but it is a modality. and I incorporate it into the modality because it may be through my soft tissue massage. It might be through just being there. And so, yes, we have to be, you find a way to incorporate that into your treatment. And as I said, I want to just share with you and maybe the others, which will help them. And I'm going to see him after I'm with you right now. So this is a gentleman who has a lot of anxiety. I do work with kids now too, and it's incredible how you can, the Reiki magic. But anyway, I just want to tell you that one thing, this is going to be, I told him I was going to be listening to you before I go do a home visit with him. And he's the first one that I have really said, I want to just do Reiki with you. Yes, because he has, it doesn't remember, he had a brain, not an aneurysm, but some fluid, and he's very bright. He's kind of OCD. He's a little bit perfectionist. But the point is that I wanted to use Reiki to help him to just find a little harmony and peace. And so it is really the first time, and I'm not going to write in my notes that I'm doing it, but I could say incorporating Reiki into my practice. But I really do spend, after I do some upper body exercises with him and some balance, because he has vertigo and other things I don't need to go into, I said, okay, I want to give you, I want to do some Reiki. And it has been helping. So I just want to let you know that for those who are in the medical profession, if you are, you can incorporate it into our way, whether you're a physical therapist or if you're not, so I just want to add that to it. Thank you.
You are lovely, Robin. Thank you for your words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Great.
Robin. Bridget also said, you sound like a fabulous, powerful healer. So thank you.
Thanks. But you know what? I want to say, Bridget, when somebody says you're really good, what I teach and what I truly believe is to turn it around and say, thanks so much, but it's really you that's doing the healing, because there's really no ego in this whole process, because it's not us. All we're doing is just tapping into your energy, and it's your body that does the healing. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky. I have another question. What do you feel about virtual versus in-person giving Reiki?
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I was shocked that the effect of Reiki virtually has been almost identical to in-person. I did not expect that. When COVID happened, and I was supposed to be teaching all over the country. I teach at universities, conferences, everything stopped. And I'm like, that's sort of interesting. Now what? And I took a class on how to do online classes, and it really was quite interesting. I've shared this in the past, but it's probably worth saying. The very first time, or it was one of the very first times that I did Reiki treatment online, the ladies, I didn't know who she was. And she sends me a text, hey, do you do Reiki treatment online? I'm like, yes. And the way I do it and the way I encourage people to do it online is, so you set the screen so that you as the Reiki practitioner can see the upper half of the person's body, at least the upper half. You don't have to, but it's helpful because we're sort of physical on this earth, and it helps us to be able to physically see the body. And so after about 20 minutes, and what you do is you beam, we beam the energy. And you do that in person, and you also do it online. So you're beaming the energy. So I'm beaming the energy to this lady, and it felt like she had a pain in her right knee. And so I write down on my yellow pad, which I always have, and I said, right knee pain. And after maybe another 5 or 10 minutes, she was receiving this Reiki very well. It felt like she was levitating above the bed. And so I write down levitating above the bed. And at the end of the session, it was about 45 minutes or so. And I said, how are you doing? How do you feel? how was that? And she said, you know, Beck, I didn't share when I started with you today that I had a pain in my right knee, but it's gone. And so I held up my yellow pad where it said right knee pain. And then she said, it felt like I was dancing on air. And I held up the pad again, levitating above the bed. It's really quite phenomenal that we can have a very similar reaction, if not even a little better online. And you think, well, how could it be better? I was never able to see auras, which is the energy that surrounds our body, until I did it online. And for some reason, I'm not exactly sure electronically, but for some reason, I can see auras and colors now online. And so that's been pretty interesting. At the end of every Reiki session, and every single Reiki training online, I'll say to people, and it's a Zoom poll, and I'll say, how effective was this Reiki training? And the average has been 95 to 97% effective, and that's online. And I think, holy moly, this really does work. And so it is quite interesting that when people say, well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer online or do you prefer in person? I like them both. And I'm getting ready to teach in person at San Antonio, the American Occupational Therapy annual conference this year. It's about 2 weeks after we finished the Reiki Masterclass. My husband and I are driving down to San Antonio, and it's very similar, although it's going to be in person. So there's like printed materials rather than the class portal where you can get all the handouts. And it's, you know, we have chairs and tables, and we're actually going to be physically providing Reiki rather than doing it online. But as far as effectiveness, it's, in my opinion and my experience, essentially identical. It's really been special to be able to do this online. Plus online, you get people from all over the world, which has been really fun. It's been fun. So thanks, Christina. It's an interesting question, and feel free to ask me more. And you know, if you don't want to talk in public, just send me an email, Becky@RebeccaAustill-Clausen.com. No hyphen, no space. You know, just send it out, and I'll be very glad to respond.
I'm putting that in the chat in case anyone needs it. There's Becky's email.
Thanks, Christina.
You're welcome. Next, someone messaged me a question. If they can only attend part of the session, can they still get their certificate in Reiki?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The answer, well, not really. It sort of depends what part you're going to miss, but I'm pretty strict, for lack of a better word, on attendance. And Christina and I, every hour, we'll check the attendance, and it's important to stay for the whole time. If you miss a fair amount of it, it's not really appropriate for you to receive a certificate. Now, one girl last year, she missed like the last 45 minutes, and she was doing really well. And so I talked with her and said, hey, what do you want to do? And she said, I really like a private session with you, and let's go over the part that I missed. And I said, okay, great. Let's wait until we have the private session. Ask me anything you want. We'll do exactly what would have happened in the class. And that worked well. Most of the time, you want to definitely plan to stay. And it is 7 hours. It's only 6 contact hours. And you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that online? It goes fast. And we have breaks about every hour and a half. And during the breaks, there's lovely music and slideshows, and it's nice and such. It's a fast session. There's like the first half is learning the philosophy. You learn self-healing, you learn about chakras. This is Reiki 1. And then the second half of each class is essentially all experiential. And that it was planned that way because, you know, you get tired being online. But if you're going from breakout room to breakout room to breakout room to experience and self-Reiki and all of this, it goes quickly, and you still have the breaks. So you do need to stay for the whole time to get that certificate. And if you can't, talk to me and we can figure something out, or you can take it again next year or whatever. I offer this every spring. And then throughout the year, particularly now that the in-person is coming back, then, you know, I'm doing it in person as well.
Thank you, Becky. Next, since you mentioned the 6.0 contact hours, I think that a question that people usually have, does that include like all OT practitioners, other educators, like any other disciplines? And do you have to be in the same state?
Good question. Yeah, good question. It's 6.0 contact hours approved by our national board for certification of OT. So it doesn't matter what state you're from. I happen to get approval through the Pennsylvania Occupational Therapy State Licensure Board. And it's this whole big process where you write the objectives, the summary, the rationale, the research, and how does it relate to, for example, occupational therapy. And they'll either approve it or not. And they have approved it. And so each class is 6.0 contact hours, regardless of what state you're from, accepted by the National Board for Certification of OT. It's also been in the past, actually at IANS, International Association for Near-Death Studies, I'm pretty sure it was approved by the Holistic Nurses Association. Now that was through IANS, but I'm pretty sure that happened. And so it's definitely appropriate for medical professionals, and you don't have to be a medical professional to gain the same information. So it's really been fun to see the recognition of Reiki, which is considered a biofield energy modality. That's sort of the word. It's the word since like about 2015, biofield energy modality. Just like yoga and meditation and Tai Chi and Qigong, all those are what's called biofield energy modalities.
Thank you, Becky. Next, we have a question that was sent to me in the chat. Are there any people that it could be harmful to do Reiki on, or anything you want to be careful with?
Yeah, good question. Reiki has never, it's really a good question. Reiki has never been found to harm anybody, ever. Now, with that being said, I highly recommend that you get a physician's prescription if you're planning to do it with someone who has a pacemaker, because Reiki does affect our body's energy. And so you want to talk to the physician and get the approval if they have a pacemaker. Also, if someone has seizures, or if they're even having like a heart transplant, like cardiac, if they're having something with cardiac, I always say, you know, just get the physician's approval. And then you think, oh, a physician's never going to approve this. Actually, they do. There is a recent article, like it came out end of last year, so it was end of 2021. Over 90% of the physicians are aware and trained in integrative medicine. And integrative medicine is considered the gold standard of medical care these days. Integrative meaning you take traditional medical, what's called allopathic medical care, and you combine it with complementary modalities. And Reiki is considered a complementary modality. And when you combine complementary modalities with traditional medical care, that's called integrative health. And that's really the gold standard. You know, since I'm chatting about this, effective January 1st, 2018, the Joint Commission, and the Joint Commission is the group that accredits hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, mental health programs, home health, outpatient clinics. The Joint Commission mandated that all their Joint Commission hospitals need to have a non-pharmacological option for pain. And that's because of the current opioid epidemic. And one of the examples they give as far as being appropriate, as far as a non-pharmacological option for pain, is relaxation therapy. And that is absolutely what Reiki is. And so if you're in a Joint Commission accredited hospitals, which again are considered often the gold standard of care, then by providing Reiki whether you're a therapist, a nurse, social worker, psychologist, you know, whatever, by providing Reiki, you are helping maintain your hospital's status as a Joint Commission approved hospital. So it's really quite fun what's happening these days. There's a lot of research and validation that's happened really in the last like 3 to 4 years. It's exciting to see.
Thank you. Another question. This is an easy one. Are the courses recorded for Reiki 1 and 2?
Oh, right. They are not recorded. And the reason they're not recorded, it's twofold. One is that it's a certificate level course. And so Christina and I both want to just sort of have you experience the benefits of Reiki. You do need to experience it. You can't just read it or learn about it or whatever. You definitely, in at least the Reiki that I provide, you want to experience it. And so for that reason, it's not recorded. The other reason it's not recorded is that we've got close to 3 hours of experiential practice in breakout rooms. And so depending upon, like if we have, say, 40 people in a class, that's 20 breakout rooms. And you can't really record 20 breakout rooms. It's just not feasible. Plus, it wouldn't be you. Like, you want to experience this. And so for that reason, we do not record this.
Thank you, Becky. I just wanted to welcome, we had a couple of new people sign on, so I just want to say welcome.
Welcome.
If you have any questions, you can use the raise hand feature. So in the participants window, you can click on raise hand. You can access it from the toolbar, or you can just raise your hand on video and I can unmute you. And you can ask any questions you might have.
And thank you, people, for being here. We've had great questions, great comments. It's been really, really fun, and feel free to ask anything.
All righty. Let's see. Something just popped up in the chat. It's from Deborah. She said, as a Canadian, the certification accredited aspect may not be recognized here in Canada. She said she's trained and been certified in hospice and palliative and bereavement care while she spent time in the US, and that's not recognized in Canada. So she's wondering if you have any experience with that.
Way to go, Deborah. I enjoy what you're saying tremendously. I also provide Reiki to hospice, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful way to use our Reiki unconditional love. The Canadian Occupational Therapy Association is in many ways, in my opinion, more advanced in healthcare and in holistic practices than the United States. And Canada has led the way with holistic care. And I have not applied for approval for a Reiki certificate approval process through the Canadian OT Association, although I don't think it would be that difficult to achieve, but I haven't got the approval. You could always see, when you get your certificate, on the bottom of the certificate, every single certificate, it'll say approved 6.0 contact hours through the National Board for Certification of OT. You can always submit that to the Canadian Occupational Therapy Association, and most likely they will accept it. And if you're in that process, you need any further documentation, they'll usually say send the outline. I think there's about 11 to 12 pages of references which you get, and so you can send all of that. But if you need me to do anything, just ask. Just ask, and I'd be very glad to facilitate that process.
Thank you. She's muted, but thank you. All right.
Feel free, folks, to ask more. These questions are excellent. It's really, really fun to answer.
All right. We have a hand raised from Deborah.
Deborah Joe Dragonfly. Yay. And you're muted.
Yeah, I just sent you the invite to unmute.
Hi there.
Hi, Deborah Joe.
Remember me?
I do. It's very, very wonderful. Of course.
This is my situation. I took Reiki Level 1 probably 5 years ago, but never had a chance to practice. And now I'm feeling like I probably would really like to go back and do Reiki level 1 again, just to start all over again, and then do Reiki level number 2. And eventually I would love to be Reiki master level practitioner. So I just wanted to get your feedback on whether it makes sense for me to go back to right from the start and start with you and go all the way through, since it's been, you know, such a long time. I remember some of the concepts. I know at level 1, I'm not, quote, supposed to be sending Reiki at a distance, but I do anyways, because I figure it can't hurt, right? And it might help. So I've been doing level 2, sending Reiki to anyone and everyone I know who needs healing. And whether it works or not, it can't harm. So, but would love to be a true level 2, and then eventually be a master Reiki practitioner under your wonderful mentoring, coaching, tutelage, and everything else. I would love to do this with you.
Well, thanks. It's such a blast. When I saw your name, I'm like, all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
My recommendation is for you to retake Reiki level 1, but
Yeah.
you don't have to. You don't have to, because once you're attuned, which is when the Reiki energy gets activated, that happens at Reiki level 1. And then at
Yep.
Reiki master, we have additional one. Once you're attuned, it stays with you forever. But if
Okay.
you haven't had a chance to really use it, there's so
Mhm.
much new that has happened in the last 5 years since you last
Great.
took it. It's
Okay.
really fun to share. There's a lot of
Mhm.
research, a lot of validation. Plus it's good to refresh. You know, you're going to learn again how to do self Reiki. You have handouts and how to do it on yourself and how to do it with others, whether it's in person or online or whatever. And then you'll practice with 3 different people on a one-to-one basis. And the fact is that first you learn it on yourself, then you
Right.
practice it with others, and that's 1. And then with 2, which is the very next day, I set them up specifically because for me, if I need to understand why something works. And that's what happens with level 2. You learn the symbols, you understand why it works. You learn a different type of hand positions. Like, it's just an extension. But I've had so many people just take Reiki 1, which is totally fine, because you can learn to give Reiki to yourself and others with just level 1. But then they'll say, you know, they'll email me 3 or 4 months later, you know, I had Reiki level 1 and I can't really figure out now, why is this working? And I'm like, that's what you learn in Reiki level 2. Not that I'm not going to share it, but it helps our mind to understand why it works, because you know, we're here on this earth with a brain. And if our brain is not aware of why something's so profound, yet so easy to learn, like you can learn this in 1 day, it blows my mind. The first couple of years, I'm like, how can this be right? Like, how can something so profound be learned in 1 day? But it can.
Right.
And so by taking Reiki level 1 and Reiki level 2 in 1 weekend, if you can, which is next weekend, it's March 5th, March 6th, plus there's a discount if you do both together, and you can either pay all at once or you can pay in 3 monthly sums. But to me, that works best. But it's not, you don't have to do it, but it does work best. And then the Reiki master, rarely do I have people that have gone from Reiki 2 last year, Reiki Master this year. In the Reiki Master class for this year, there's a woman that interviewed with me, and she did great. And she took Reiki 1 and 2 with me last year, and she's going to be a Reiki Master this year. It took me 10 years. So rarely do people go that quickly, but you can do it. And Deborah, when you're saying that, you know, you've been sending long distance Reiki and maybe you shouldn't do it, the way I teach Reiki is that there's no rules. There's no rules. And I have had long conversations with folks about that very question, because when we're doing Reiki online, in my opinion, what we're doing is long distance Reiki. And so in Reiki 1, what we're doing is long distance Reiki. And so it is appropriate. Like, it's appropriate to send it. How could it be wrong for us to be sending love? and peace, particularly like right now. So if we
Right.
send love and peace and camaraderie and joy and just companionship and support, how can that be wrong? It's not wrong. We're sending
Right.
it long distance and it's fine. It's totally fine.
Well,
And so
good, because people have been saying they've been feeling my Reiki, from a distance, and
great.
I've been sending it, so it's working.
And,
It's
and
working.
that's excellent. And so I would encourage you to write these things down. If you're sending Reiki and somebody's receiving it and it's long distance and it's totally cool and you think, wow, that's awesome. I encourage you to write it down with a date and a year. And
Okay.
it'll help when our mind thinks, now really, is this really working? Then you can go back to your journal or wherever you're writing this down, and it'll help your mind say, yes, this really does work. So way to go. Way to go.
Yay. Yay. I can't wait. And one more, I don't want to take too much time because I know I came in very late. I didn't even know this was going on until I went back to an email and said, oh my God, that was today at 1 o'clock. I didn't get on until 1:45, but I caught you before you were done. So, whew, that was a close call. I was supposed to go, I'm still training to be a certified forest therapy guide.
Oh,
and
you are?
Well, 2.5 years. It was supposed to be a 6-month program, but with everything in my life, just totally being in chaos for the last 2.5 years, I'm still not certified yet. But I was supposed to go to Costa Rica, leaving today, and I was going to get back on Saturday, March 5th. And so that's why I said, oh, I can't go to your training. I could go to the level 2, but I really wanted to do level 1 again. And I broke my 5th metatarsal bone in my left foot a month ago, visiting my sister in Florida. And so I couldn't go to Costa Rica. I was so upset. But now I can go to Reiki level 1 and 2 with you.
You
so
can.
It all works out.
That's it's such a wonderful spin when trauma happens, to be able to put some positive thought to that.
Yeah.
And so when you come or whatever, let people know that you would like Reiki on your 5th metatarsal. And it just doesn't have to be just there, but
Right.
I would be surprised if you don't feel a lot better with your 5th metatarsal. It's amazing.
And the doctor already that I saw said that it was healing better than he would have predicted in just a little bit less than a month when he saw me from when I first got seen in Florida. So I'm doing Reiki on it all the time, and I could use anybody's help to help out as well. So now I can come. So what synchronicities.
It is.
Miracles are happening.
It's so fun to follow the flow. It's fun and it's magical. So Deborah, just as a reminder, in order to register, it's just my name, Austill-Clausen.com /Reiki Immersion, IMMERSION.
I'll sign up right after we end up here today.
Oh, what a blast. Right? That would be great. Thanks.
See you in a week.
Yay. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing, Deborah. I just put that link in the chat as well.
Excellent.
Forest therapy, people, is such a blast. Oh my gosh. I do a whole multiple workshops on forest therapy, forest bathing, nature guides. Nature is so healing, and it's so awesome to go into nature and receive Reiki, whether you're giving it to yourself, you're giving it to the trees, you're feeling the energy from the trees. It is awesome. And that is what Deborah is teaching. So way to go. Way to go.
I will be. I have to still finish my certification. I'm already doing it. I just need that little piece of paper. I've been doing it all my life. Really.
That's great. It's so fun to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Something else that Deborah from Toronto shared is that she's also been implementing Reiki when she practiced as a birth doula in Toronto, in addition to what she's doing with hospice and palliative care. So I think that's fascinating, because I never thought about it on the opposite end as well.
That's great, Deborah. It's so fun to have birth doulas and death doulas. you know, we've got it on both ends of the spectrum, and to send Reiki to little kids, oh my gosh, as long as you have their permission or the permission from the parents or whatever, it's fantastic. In when I do the free webinar Reiki Works, I talk about actually it was the first university program that I was teaching Reiki at. A girl had never, ever done or even practically heard about Reiki, but she kept going to the sacral chakra, which is a couple inches below our belly button, with a person that she never knew. And she kept going there to give Reiki. And then she said at the end, she says, you know, how was that? And she said, I keep going to your sacral chakra. And this girl looked at her. She was about mid-30s. And she says, I just discovered I was pregnant. And so here's someone that has never done Reiki before. It was Reiki level 1. She was able to feel the baby. And she said, well, I hope you didn't mind that it's all right. And the mother, you know, said, of course, it's wonderful. You know, it's wonderful to have my baby receive Reiki. So it's a way to go, Deborah. You are a cool lady.
That is very
As
cool.
everybody here, cool lady, cool men. You know, we all have our wonderful, unique abilities. And one of the things that Reiki does is it facilitates an awareness of our own uniqueness. It's really nice. You know, it gives us a sense of well-being. So way to go, everybody. Thank you so much for these questions and for being here, and feel free to keep coming.
Another thing that Robin shared was that she's been doing Reiki with children who have autism to help with sensory regulation, and she's been doing it virtually. Are there any other like considerations with children, anything in particular?
Yeah, thanks. I'm a pediatric therapist as well as have some other specialties, but definitely peds. Kids with autism, with hyperactivity, ADHD, ADD, they respond really well to Reiki, and it's fast, like they get it. And it's really quite something to, with children with autism, they do have many times social issues and organizational challenges, and providing them with just a little bit of Reiki. And I always say, ask them, you know, just a little bit, and get their permission. It really does work well. And so my recommendation as a pediatric therapist, and I used to have this humongous private practice doing pediatrics, I always say, please get the director of special ed's approval. And the director of special ed, this is for school system. So if you're doing this in the school system, please get the director of special ed approval. If you're doing early intervention, please get the director of EI approval before doing Reiki. Once you have that, then I say, please get the parents' permission. You know, it's just good to get the parents' permission, and then ask the child, is it okay if I give you Reiki? And the child's going to say, and what is Reiki? Sort of like, what is OT? And so what I usually say with Reiki is that it's a way for your own body to help heal itself. That's a standard phrase that I'll use. And if people don't want to receive it, it's totally fine. Like, it's not a judgment thing. It's more just you're asking permission, because when you start to share energy, we are sharing energy, and you want to make sure that that energy is appropriate and that you want to send it and that they want to receive it. It's not something we just send, you know, because it's always done with intention. We want the intention to heal for the client's highest good, for the family's highest good, for your friend's highest good. We don't know what that highest good is, but our own self, our body, our own self, we know what our highest good is. And so we always want to make sure that we are always asked permission and for the client's highest good. So thanks. That's way to go.
Thank you. That was from Robin. And we do have a couple of more people that signed on recently. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can wave your hand in the video or use the raise hand feature. And
thank you, people, for being here. Thank you very much. We've been having a jolly time.
Yeah. Had lots of good questions.
Feel free to ask anything. Hey, you know what we haven't really talked too much about is Reiki enhances after-death communication. You know, it's sort of a byproduct of Reiki, and it really has been fun for me to bring it a little bit more into the forefront. When I get approval, medical approval to provide Reiki, I usually don't talk about the fact that it does enhance after-death communication, but it does. And the first time I taught Reiki at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, there were about 70 people that learned Reiki Level 1 in one weekend. And this was in 2017. And 20% had after-death communication. 15 people that weekend had communication with their loved ones. And it really is quite exciting. Usually when I teach Reiki, 2 or 3 people will have communication with their loved ones. But this one, I was like, whoa. And these were people that really didn't know a lot about Reiki. It was to a graduating OT class in 2017 at Duquesne. And I walked into the classes, about 40 students, and some of the faculty had been to my Reiki trainings before. And so they said, hey, can you come and train our students? Which I'm like, yes, that'd be a blast. And so I prepared the room. It was very lovely, lovely setting. Oh my gosh, it was very pretty. I walk in, I said, hi, I'm Becky Austill-Clausen, and I'm here to teach you Reiki. And I said, how many of you are familiar with Reiki? Not one person raised their hand. And I'm like, whoa, this is going to be interesting. And it was that class plus the class the next day that had 20% of after-death communication. So it really is quite astounding. What happens is that when we have Reiki, it raises our energetic vibrations. It raises our energy. And so it puts us more in line, puts us more in touch with the energy of the afterlife. And so our loved ones in the afterlife can reach us easier. And it really is quite fun. I think it's quite amazing. So that's another thing that happens with Reiki. So I just wanted to bring that forward.
Thank you, Becky. Next, we do have a raised hand from Ellie. So,
All right.
Yeah,
Oh, Ellie.
Hi, Becky.
Hey, I hope
Hi, sorry.
drive carefully.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm walking the dog now, so I have arrived at my destination. But I have a few questions. So, obviously I have my mom, and she does, Reiki with me. And I also feel I'm very sensitive to energy. And so I already kind of feel like I have some, aspects of Reiki within me, even though I haven't been trained. But I'm in terms of career-wise, like I am a social worker. I'm a licensed social worker. And so, knowing about Reiki in a general way, I know that it can really help with anxiety reduction. But I was just curious as to how I can, if I do get trained and I become a master, how I can really implement that into therapy sessions with, adults, and just doing, more of because I do a lot of talk therapy, and, but I know grounding techniques. So there's a lot of things that I think Reiki could be great for, but just wanted to see, in what other ways I could use it in the sessions.
Sure. It's so fun talking with you, Ellie. Way to go.
Oh, thank you.
An easy way to do it, and I've had a fair amount of social workers take the program as well. When you're providing counseling or coaching or referrals to other sites or whatever you're doing as a social worker, and I love social work, so thank you very, very much for that.
Of course, thank you.
Profession. If you said to one of your clients, would it be all right if I sent you a little bit of Reiki? All you need to do, Ellie, is put your hand on their hand or their arm or their shoulder, or if they're sensory defensive, you don't even have to touch them. Right. You could just send them a little bit of Reiki. And what it does is it provides them with an almost immediate reduction in anxiety. And a lot of people that are receiving social work, as I believe you just said, are anxious. And absolutely. So if you can just, you only have to do it for like 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long. And you beam it, or you can just very gentle. It's very gentle, putting your hand on their hand or their, I usually do it on their shoulder, because at least in the beginning, the shoulder is very non-threatening. And so if you have your hand on their shoulder, it's sort of a normal place to put your hand, and it works. It works. And so to do it in the beginning of a session, if you have a client that comes in all like nervous and anxious and stressed, to do it in the beginning of the session, what happens a lot is that then the session will be more manageable, because they're going to be calmer right from the beginning. And I always try to recommend that we do a baseline. You do a session without it, and then the next day or next time they come or whatever, do a session with it, so that you know how they are without it. And then that next session, start with Reiki, or however you're going to implement it, whether you do it in the beginning or in the middle or whatever. And then you know how they are when they have had Reiki. And oftentimes the first time of providing Reiki with a client, I'll usually provide it and then do, whatever we're doing for OT, it would be occupation-based activity. For social work, it would be counseling or communicating or referrals or whatever. And then at the end, you could do a little bit more of Reiki, and then say to them, how are you doing? How do you feel? And if you say that to them, please, if somebody has pain, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you describe your stress? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you describe your stress rather than pain? Pain's more OT, stress would be more social work. How would you describe your stress? And you could get that answer at the end of the session, after they've had Reiki 1 or 2 times that session, versus the session before where they didn't have Reiki. And I would be shocked if you did not have a significant reduction. And that helps with documentation too, because you say in a very objective manner. Yesterday, I provided Reiki to my client, Mrs. Smith, and at the end of the session, she said her stress level on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being minimal stress and 10 being maximal stress, her stress was 8. Today, I provided a biofield energy modality, or you can say Reiki. I provided Reiki. I usually recommend only saying that once, because you don't want to get it thrown out if people don't know what Reiki is. But if they do get it thrown out, like if you're sending it in for documentation, I always recommend appealing it. But anyway, today when we provided a biofield relaxation technique, and then you could say called Reiki or not, at the end of the session, I asked Mrs. Jones how her stress level was, and she said it was at a 5. And so you've got a really nice comparison. So that's a nice way to do it.
Thank you. I love that. Yeah. I also think it would be interesting with trauma work, because a lot of my clients have PTSD and like the startle response. And I think just, exposing them to something comforting rather than, they're startled if they get touched, this might be a way to just make them more calm. So
yes. And Ellie, if you take Reiki level 2, you actually learn that you can attune other people. And so you could teach a person how to give Reiki to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of my second question, because I suffer from some emotional dysregulation myself, and anxiety. So I was curious, can I give that to myself?
Oh, that's the first thing we learn.
Yeah. Okay, great.
First, because if we are comfortable with ourselves, and I, use comfortable as sort of a general term, because we're always learning more and more and more about us. But if we're comfortable ourselves, then we're not looking for healing from others. We can heal ourselves. We don't need to have a communication with others in order to heal ourselves. And so self-healing is the first thing you learn how to use with Reiki. Reiki 1, that's first thing. I mean, we talk about chakras, but as far as healing, it's I think Ellie just.
I think she disconnected.
Oh, no, I got disconnected.
No worries. So I was just saying that Reiki level 1, the first thing you learn is self-healing, you know,
That's
as well after
wonderful.
we do philosophy and history and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But
Thank you,
it
Becky.
works. You're
I
welcome.
really
It's so
appreciate
fun.
it. Yeah, I
It's-
love being here. Thank you very much. I'm excited to, get this started. So
That'd be a
yeah, great.
blast. Be an
Yes,
honor.
absolutely. Thank you. Me as well. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you. I always love hearing I'm going to see people next weekend.
Yes, it's great.
We have had a couple of more people join. So if you do have any questions, you can feel free to turn on your video, raise your hand, or use the raise hand feature in Zoom.
We've had really fun questions. Like, feel free to ask anything you want. And thank you, people, for staying on as well. Like, it's really very lovely, very lovely. So thanks. Silence.
Oh, Robin's raising her hand.
Oh, Robin.
Okay, well, I can always ask questions. All right, here's a good one. Now that I'm a Reiki master, I think it's always like today, I'm just feeling the wonderful energy, which is beautiful, and just seeing you again and hearing everybody speak and having Ellie join today is just, it's just very powerful. I feel that sometimes I would love to just be able to continue and have the after Reiki Masters gathering, where we can empower each other and continue to build upon our skills and abilities that we've learned so that we can even go to that next level, wherever that is.
That's lovely. It's there's so much to learn and so much to share. We do have a Rebecca's Reiki Facebook group. So that's a social media way that we can continue communicating with each other and things like that. But it would be really interesting to have like a follow-up. I haven't planned that one out yet, but that's a good idea, Robin. That's a good one. So thank you.
I'll sign up.
There's all sorts of specialties within Reiki. I did shamanic Reiki, and shamanic Reiki is when you journey to different realms. And there's a wonderful woman, Lynn Roberts, L-L-Y-N, Lynn Roberts, who's teaching shamanic Reiki. And that's a cool thing. There's Holy Fire Reiki. I did that one. And that's where you are in the presence of someone and the Reiki energy of a Reiki master, and the energy flows just by being in the presence of that person. So there's all sorts of, there's Karuna Reiki. That's pretty cool. Karuna Reiki is used a lot in Hawaii, K-A-R-U-N-A, and that's a cool practice as well. And so there's all sorts of different ways to expand and extend our Reiki knowledge. And then, of course, there's all these different modalities, like the sky's the limit. It really is what your heart wants. Like, what do you want? And go for it. So I'm very encouraging to assist people's journeys and say, cheers for you to do whatever you want. It's really quite fun.
Thank you, Becky and Robin. Next, we have a question. We have a raised hand from Jerry. So I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Great,
Hello.
Jerry.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. You sound beautiful.
Well, you do too. I just love you. And I have been a Reiki master since 1999. Okay?
All right, you go, girl.
Back in the day, we used to do healing circles. We used to go to hospitals and offer healing. And I was very, I can't do this. I'm not doing it right, yada, yada, yada. I studied feng shui for 10 years. When I got attuned to Reiki, I let go of feng shui because I want everybody to know that has Reiki 1, when you do Reiki 2, you get empowered with the symbols. And you can clear energy. You could do so much with the symbols. It's a passion of mine. It's not a business, it's a passion. And I don't attune classes. I attune one-on-one or two-on-one. That's the way I do it. But with the pandemic, I mean, I used to get Reiki on myself once a month at least. And I stopped doing that, and I stopped doing hands-on. But I have a list of people that I send Reiki to. You can either send it, I do the symbols on paper and I put their names on the paper. I have pictures. It's very empowering, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I love listening to you about near death. You've taught me how to connect. I wish years ago when my parents were dying, I was able to honored to attune some hospice nurses. And I was there when my mom passed, able to give her Reiki. And my sister and I saved my dad once he was septic in the hospital, and his fever wouldn't come down, and we both started doing Reiki, came right out of it. So there's so many things that you can do with it. And I love hearing about afterlife and Reiki, because my dear friend passed away in September, and I still send, she's still on my list. I'm still sending her Reiki. So thank you so much for all your sharing, your free sharing. I appreciate it. And I love you. Thank you.
Oh, Jerry, you're so lovely. And I'm so sorry about your parents and your friends who've passed. You know, you said, I wish I knew, I knew more about this when your parents passed. They still will get the message. I teach in the fall, I teach after death communication, and that is a passion of mine. And this year I'm changing from a 7-week, very well received 7-week after death communication class to a 1 weekend after death communication class. And we've got 2 guest speakers. One's a physician, one's a PhD scientist, plus myself. And it's going to be November 5th and 6th. It's a Saturday and Sunday. And I'm really, really, really excited. Deb, we're doing forest bathing. So I've got a whole session on forest bathing and nature therapy and how healing nature is and all of that. But one of the things that is so apparent to me is that people in the afterlife receive our love, regardless of how long it has been since they've passed. Love is the dominant feature in whatever you want to call it, the afterlife, heaven, whatever you want to say. There's no rules about what we want to call it, but love is the dominant feeling, and they absolutely will receive it. And it's very healing to be able to continue a relationship with our loved ones that have passed. Hey, let me share. I share this during the classes. So if you're going to go to the class, you're going to hear this anyway. If you're not familiar with the Bigelow Awards, let me tell you about them. February 1st, 2021, there was a fellow named Mr. Bigelow. I think it's Robert, but I know it's for a fact. It's Mr. Bigelow, Bigelow. He said, this is just last year, February, I'm going to pay $1 million for anyone that can justify the existence of consciousness as separate from bodily death. So the fact that consciousness continues after people have died. November 1st, 2021, he awarded $1.8 million to 29 people that wrote 29 prize-winning essays that justified the continuation of consciousness after bodily death. And so there's a fair amount of near-death experiences that won. Pim Van Lommel, who's a cardiologist, MD, he got second prize. He won $300,000. Jeffrey Mishlove is the first prize winner. He won $500,000. And you can get these prize-winning essays for free. And the way you get them is if you go onto the website, Bigelow Institute for Human Consciousness Studies, Bigelow. So it's Bigelow Institute for Human Consciousness Studies Awards. That's all you have to do. And you will get 29 prize-winning essays, and they are excellent. And so they absolutely, without a doubt, justify the continuation of life when we die. they justify the continuation of the afterlife, the fact that consciousness is separate from the brain, and it is very, very, very validating. And so it's really with a great deal of pleasure and research that I can say the afterlife is real. And so check out these Bigelow Awards. It's so exciting to have that happen, and it's brand new. You know, it just happened a couple of months ago. So check out Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies Awards, and you'll see them all right there. You can download them. It's very, very, very exciting.
Thank you for sharing that, Becky. I did put that link in the chat box as well.
Oh, thanks. And thanks, Jerry, so much for being here. And thanks for being a Reiki master since 1999. I think you said. You go, girl. You know, that's when I learned Reiki as well. I learned it in 1996, and Reiki was sort of considered far out at that point. And it's been really, really wonderful to see the recognition and the advancement of Reiki research and knowledge and skills, and how many millions of people have learned it since then. So way to go, Jerry, for being a great pioneer.
Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have any other questions? We are just at about 2:30. Oh, Deborah, I'll ask you to unmute.
Great, Deb.
Actually, two anecdotes for we have climate deniers, Reiki deniers in my family. The first one is my oldest sister, Sue. She's a MD, board certified in internal medicine. And way back when HIV and AIDS was just starting to come around, she was working down in Miami as a resident. And nobody wanted to touch any of the AIDS patients because they thought they'd get AIDS. So these poor people who were like dying in the hospital at that point because they just didn't have any of the drugs. And my sister Sue would put her hand on someone's shoulder, one of her patients' shoulders, and just do that, just what you said, that simple gesture of just human to human physical contact. And she said that her patients would just calm down a little bit more and things like that. But when I brought up that I was studying Reiki like 4 or 5 years ago, she said, oh, that's just baloney. There's nothing to that. So she's doing Reiki, but she totally disbelieves in Reiki. And she also was, for 15 years, she was a hospice doctor. And again, she always said that she would, she'd ask permission to put her hand on a shoulder or forearm or whoever her hospice patient was. And she was working with pediatric hospice as well as like geriatric hospice. And she always felt that that was something that would really be helpful to her patients, the people she was working with. But to this day, she totally denies that there's anything true about energy work, energy medicine. Blows my mind. She's doing it automatically, just instinctually, and yet she doesn't believe in it. So one little incident. I've been trying to get her to come around slowly, and maybe I'll have to do a Reiki treatment on her at some time, actually physically on her, and see if I can bring her around a little bit. The other example is my soon-to-be ex-husband, also totally energy anything denier. And when I got my level 1, he was the only person I could practice on because he was the only person that was there, but we had to do it on our bed. I didn't have a table, I didn't have anything. It's really hard to do Reiki on a queen size bed. You just can't get around stuff. And so I said, well, just try it. Just try it. You don't have to believe in anything, just try it. And so he was there and I did a session, and afterwards, and he just kind of went to sleep. And afterwards he says, well, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything at all, but I'm calmer than I've been in a long, long time. And I'm like, well, that's a feeling. I don't believe in this stuff, but I feel really, really calm now. I don't believe in that Reiki actually worked, that you did anything to me. That's because I was lying down on the bed. So I have energy deniers in my family, energy medicine deniers in my family that I need to work on a little bit.
Well,
bring them around.
It is interesting. Like, to me, we all have free will. And we can decide if we want to believe it or not believe it or whatever. But like for your husband, for him to say, well, I do feel calmer, that's Reiki. You know, that's Reiki. And it took me 20 years to come out of the closet. Like that's what it took me. I was doing some Reiki. That's what I was doing, was a fair amount of Reiki, but I was not talking about the relationship of Reiki with the afterlife, and the afterlife was real and all of that. I wasn't able to do that. And sometimes we just need to find the courage to open our minds and to accept that it's okay. We can think the way we want. And some people just aren't able to get to that point, and it's okay because that's who they are. But for them to have the experience, I love that idea. You know, maybe see if you're, I think it was your mom or your sister who,
Yeah,
your sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she might like to have like a Reiki session sometimes. That's a recommendation I give all the time, is to, if you're at a facility, maybe offer a afternoon of free Reiki, just like 10 minutes, 10 minutes of, you know, people come in and have it. And just to reduce the question in their mind about what is this? Because it is, you know, it is unusual to have something so profound be learned in one day. Like that is quite something, but it does work. So way to go. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Deborah. Do we have any other questions?
It's been so fun to have all these questions. Like, way to go, people. Thank you very, very, very much. I'm going to just sort of give a final statement, but if somebody wants to ask a question, just feel free. I encourage you to think about Reiki, you know, and if you've already been attuned and are ready for Reiki, I encourage you to just give yourself a big hug. Actually, if everybody would give yourselves big hugs, you know, just feel the love and the companionship and the support for who you are. You know, feel that. And thank you. Thank you so much. And Christina, per usual, you do an excellent job. Like, I love collaborating with you. And thank you very, very much. You're a great co-host. Christina's going to be with us for all 3 classes, which is just a gift. And so thank you very, very much. It's wonderful to come to Reiki Immersion online. You know, you develop a whole tribe of people that think the way you do, and the communication and the community is fantastic. And it's really quite something to be able to receive and share Reiki with 3 different people. First day, if you come on Reiki 2, 3 more people, 6 people in 2 days. It's really quite something. And then the Reiki Masterclass is just the icing on the cake. You do need to have 6 months experience before you can do that, and then talk to me. You know, you need to interview with me, but it's really a joy sharing Reiki's love and energy with you all. And thank you so much for staying. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you for being you. And so, you know, if there's not any other questions, I'd say I'm sending you lots of love, always and forever, and hope to see you. So have a great day. Thanks for spending it with us. It was just really a joy, and lots of love to all of you.